Hi, I'm John, and this is Dice Paper Miniatures Live Clips. These are segments pulled from my Twitch live streams. This is a way for me to cross-promote both my YouTube recorded content as well as my Twitch live streams. The kind of content you'll see on the live clips focuses on, well, the material I have over on Twitch live stream, but in bite-sized segments. Everything from miniature painting to hobby reviews and discussions, unboxings, and various industry news. It would be awesome if you could click that subscribe and notification bell for future content updates, as well as share this content. All of this helps with the YouTube algorithm. In addition to helping the YouTube channel here, it also helps bring awareness to the Twitch livestream, which is typically at least once a week, if not multiple times a week. The schedule is a work in progress, so it definitely helps to follow me on Twitch so you don't miss any of those live streams there. But if you do, that's what the live clips are for here on YouTube. And lastly, before we get into the content here for the live clip, please consider checking out the merch store over on Teespring, where I have things like t-shirts, mugs, stickers, banners, and now face masks, which are perfect for respecting the space of your fellow gamers at your local game store. Furthermore, some of these live clips I do reserve for my Patreon page, which if you haven't checked that out, I definitely encourage you to check out the Patreon, as that is just another way to help support the channel, which helps creating the content that you see here. Thank you so much. Now here is today's live clip. Well, good evening. Hopefully everything's working better tonight. Man, if you were on the stream last night, I apologize. I had another mic open and you're getting like an endless feedback. So it probably works out for the best this way. We have some more information on the new Blood Bowl edition or Season 2. So that's pretty exciting. We'll go over that tonight, as well as some of the content from last night as well. If you're watching, definitely let me know if everything's coming in okay. It looks like the audio's fine, but we'll find out. All right, so I'm going to try to basically do what I talked about last night, but go into some of the new information that we got today. So for those that are not aware, Blood Bowl, there was some spoilers that were released over the weekend. Not entirely sure if that was planned or not, but we have them. And then shortly thereafter, the Warhammer community went ahead and released content to kind of play catch up with what was being spoiled on Facebook. So if you're not familiar with the Facebook community, there's a Blood Bowl community on Facebook. That page is where these spoilers were initially previewed. And then more and more have come out over that Facebook page. And then as more spoilers come out on the Facebook page, we've seen the Warhammer community come out with another article as well. So we had this article that came out on the 3rd, and then we had another article from the Warhammer community that came out today. So I think I'll go into the spoilers first, and then we'll kind of see how the Warhammer community articles are responding to that, as well as kind of a brief summary of observed changes to the game. That's a collection of those changes on Reddit. So first things first, let me go ahead and bring up the spoilers. So this is the new cover art for the upcoming Season 2. So these are the official new rules coming out. The art style is quite a bit different from the existing edition, but it is kind of in line with the new Spike magazines that have been coming out this last year. So if you collect the Spike magazines, which is a supplement to the Blood Bowl game, where it goes over specific mechanics of the new team, usually a new team of miniatures comes out. For example, we had Ogres not too long ago. The Ogres came out, and then there was a Spike magazine that corresponded with that Ogres team release. It talks about the costs of the team, as well as a summary of like tactics of how to build the team and how to level up the team as you get experience with the team. We also, watching all the different monitors, sorry for the interruption. We also recently had a mixed race team issue of Spike magazine where it was the Old World Alliance, the Chaos Renegades, and the Underworld Denizens. And they released new box sets for those teams as well. Now, this most recent Spike edition's a little bittersweet because, again, these rules are going to be changing soon. So there's an assumption those teams will still exist in the new rule set, but they even may be structured differently than they currently are now. So, only time will tell. But let's go ahead. This is one of the, again, these are the previews that came out over the weekend. Some of these are captured also in the new Warhammer community article, but these are the Imperial Noblemen human team, which have a slightly different makeup compared to the standard human team. And we'll go over some of those differences later as we proceed. So here we have, on the left is the human team, and on the right is the Imperial nobility teams. So positions are different. So kind of a new thing in terms of the teams to begin with. Teams used to have a cost breakdown of every 10,000 or increments of every 10,000 points or gold to pay for your team. Now it's every 5,000. So they've kind of changed the cost of things. I'm not sure if that's better or worse. It just is what it is. They've also, it's a little difficult to see in this example, but you'll see there's the quantity, the position, the cost, the movement, and then ST is for strength, AG is still for agility, but they pulled the passing attribute or ability out of agility, and it's a separate attribute now. And then we have your armor value, and then skills and traits, primary and then secondary as you level up. So you'll notice the human team hasn't changed too much other than the throwers have a 2+ on their passing ability. In fact, most throwers on most teams have a passing ability of a 2+, which is pretty good. They're clearly meant to throw. So that's a thing. And then you'll notice on the Imperial team, whereas we had catchers on the human team, they don't have catchers. They have characters called bodyguards. And then they don't have access to halflings on the Imperial nobility team, but they do have halflings now on the human teams. So human teams were arguably like a tier 2, competitively speaking, type team, but now they're more of a tier 1 team, having a little bit more diversity of play options with having halflings on the team. So that's pretty cool. They can still have ogres, and the Imperial nobility teams also have access to ogres. These are kind of loosely based off of the community-built Bretonnian teams, which is a playable team on the Steam version of the game, but they were like a community design team. They weren't an official team. So this is GW's official version, if you will, of the Bretonnians, called the Imperial nobility teams. And we'll see better pictures of the models. The human models are the old models, but the Imperial nobility teams are definitely new sculpts. And then, like the previous edition of Blood Bowl, where it was humans versus orcs, we'll have the Imperial nobility team as the human team in this new box edition. And then instead of having the standard orcs, we'll have a black orcs team. And so the Black Orcs team's more of a brawler team. In fact, they have a new skill set, or skill I should say, called Brawler, which we'll see what that means hopefully later on in some of the spoilers. There's some speculation on that. The new spoiler that have come out today, some of the spoilers that have come out today, plus the Warhammer community page, maybe they've addressed what Brawler is. But in any event, this team makeup's a little different. So in the original Orc team, you had your throwers, you had your linemen. They didn't have catchers, but they had black orcs and blitzers, and then they had access to goblins and trolls. Now it's exclusively just goblins, black orcs, and a troll. So The Goblin, though, is a new position. It's not just linemen, they're bruiser linemen. So the bruiser linemen look like they might have a higher armor value from what I recall the previous Goblins. I thought the previous Goblins were a 7+. Maybe they were 8, but I thought they were 7. They still seem to have a decent agility, although their passing ability, I would argue it's the same as it used to be. I think when you had an agility of 3, you were throwing on a 4+. I could be wrong. That's something else too. You'll notice that they'll say things like 3+, 4+, 8+, etc. It used to be you would have a value that was just a flat value like a 3 or a 4, and then you would compare that to a chart, and then that chart would tell you the value that you were trying to roll for. And that it looks like that chart mechanic has just been streamlined, which I actually like from a game designer's perspective. I kind of appreciate streamlining. If it's really that simple just to put the number plus a plus symbol and that's the number you're supposed to beat with your dice, that's way better than flipping more pages or scrolling through an app, in my opinion, to find the chart that corresponds to what roll do I have to make based on my agility number. It was just a lot of extra steps to basically get the same result. Skills all seem to be similar. Dodge, right stuff, stunning, thick skull. I believe that's all the same stuff. The Black Orcs have this new mechanic though called Brawler. Like I said, I think that must be like a reroll for a type of block, probably. We'll find out. And then Train Troll, it looks to be the same. What's interesting is they have Really Stupid, but they also have Loner now, which I don't recall the original trolls on the standard Orc team having Loner. But they have these numerical values like 3+, or in this case, I should say like Mighty Blow has +1. It used to be Mighty Blow was always a +1 like default. It was just a static, I should say. +1 modifier to either like breaking armor or injury rolls. But now it says +1, which kind of makes you wonder, it's no longer a static ability. It could be maybe some creatures have a +2 or a +3. Or it's a skill you can improve on by like slotting into it further. That could be really interesting. Projectile Vomit's a new skill. We should see that definition later on throughout these spoilers. But that's definitely a new thing. Something else too is the armor values for Black Orcs I thought were 9+, but now they're 10+. Same with the Troll. So these armor values seem a little higher than I recall. I'm not sure if that's unique just to the Black Orc team, or if even the normal Orc team will have a change to their armor as well. We'll find out though. There's the new GW Warhammer Community article that was released today. The images they have for the Black Orc teams, they're really high quality, so you know, if you're a little bummed that you can't see the quality of these images, we'll see better versions here soon. So something else that some people were upset about this. Some people were like, well, finally, they're not quite as crazy as they used to be. But the Wood Elf teams, all the Wood Elves, you know, because they had a really high, they had a high agility, but now it's a low agility to represent it's an easier number to roll. So they have a 2+ on the agility. That used to translate to pretty much all their players were great with throwing the ball, but they kind of brought things in line with the other teams where the throwers have a great ability to throw, but the throwing ability for the other team members are not quite as good as the thrower, which I think makes more sense. It made it really difficult to contain a Wood Elf team because they could just throw the ball all over the field. Combined with their high movement, they were really hard to control without just like destroying you on scoring. So, Strong Arm I think is a new skill that relates to throwing, but I'm not sure, not for sure. And yeah, everything else, I think they may have changed up some of what they get access to on the primary and secondary skills. And I think that's across the board on all the teams. There might be some differences from what they used to have, but they're really close. And you'll see that they have special rules. Special rules kind of come into play, I believe, on the like on the kickoff, as well as like maybe in the campaign if you're playing a campaign or league rules. Depending on like the stadium you're playing in, that could also have some impact. But it could just be with like the kickoff rule. There might be some advantages to certain, depending on what special rules you have. And then we have undead teams and Skaven teams, and if you've been following the commentary on Facebook, you've seen a few people pretty bummed about the undead team. Does not have a very good throwing or passing option for their team. In fact, none of their players have pass, and only the ghoul runners have a passing of 4+, which is pretty low. So they're not really meant to throw the ball. But with the ghoul runner being a movement of 7, they can still run pretty good. They have a natural dodge ability, and their primaries are agility in general. They have access to 2 special rules, Master of Undeath and Sylvanian Spotlight. Or Sylvanian, tomato. Anyways. Otherwise, they look fairly standard. They have skeleton linemen, zombie linemen, ghoul runner, white blitzers, and mummies. Pretty standard. I believe they spoiled a necromancer team today on the Facebook page, so we'll take a look at that here too. And then the Skaven team, pretty standard, although it sounds like there was some frustration too with some of the passing on the players, not as good as it used to be, but they still have ridiculous movement. And I still have to get confirmation if the pitch or field was reduced by like 1 square on each side, or two squares total. If it was reduced in length, it really makes gutter runners almost able to score on turn 1 or very close to it, which is pretty ridiculous. Especially maybe not out of the box, but depending on how you level up, you know, if they get a +1 to their movement, if they get an extra sprint, assuming sprint still exists, they could in theory score on turn 1, which is pretty powerful. I'm gonna check one thing. Okay. Looks like everything's working pretty good. Definitely, again, if you have any questions, definitely post a comment on the chat. Check one other thing out. That's funny. Okay, that was up for my personal enjoyment. Anyways, so, all right, let's go to the next team. All right, so we have the Goblin teams and the Halfling teams. Not a lot of changes, other than the Halfling team has a new positional called Halfling Hefty, or Hefties, which is pretty funny. The Halfling Hefty is their version of a thrower or passer. Not as good as a normal thrower. It's a 3+ versus 2+. But they also have Fend, which is interesting. They don't have the pass skill, they have the Fend skill. They have dodge, which most of the halflings do have dodge. And then of course they all have stunty because they're little guys. And then the Goblin team, I think there's some price changes, like the Pogoer being, you know, again, things not being in increments of 10,000, but 5,000. There's some price differences going on there. What else is going on with this team? Not the best passing, but they still have access to it. So like the Bama or the linemen have 4+. It looks like all their armor values, I thought their armor was a 7+ before for breaking, but now it's an 8+. So a little more durable than I recall them being in the past. Definitely for those watching, correct me if I'm wrong on that. Just checking to see. Okay, no questions. Now, this was one of the spoilers that we got today. So this looks like it's going to be a necromancer team. We got zombies, of course, a ghoul runner, but this ghoul runner has like this pumpkin helmet, which is awesome. These new sculpts, it looks like they just have a little bit more character, which I kind of feel like is based on the fact that a lot of the third-party Blood Bowl players that we've seen, or Blood Bowl teams that we've seen come out here recently, a lot of which are on Kickstarter, they tend to have a little bit more personality, whether it's in pose or just some of the costume or outfits and details. So these have a little bit more character, like some of the third-party vendors make, which I do like. And I kind of feel like the older, like the original metal Blood Bowl miniatures, they had a little bit more unique personality too. So I kind of feel like they're recapturing some of that flair, if you will, some of that personality that the old models used to have. They're able to now kind of get some of that kind of across in plastic now. So I really like what's going on here with this team. Yeah. Now this actually comes from the Warhammer community page site. These look like goblin hooligans. I'm assuming that's what these are, but if you're looking for people to put in your stands, like fans, if you will, these would be perfect for fans to put on your, your custom-made Blood Bowl stadium. These are pretty awesome. We got the throw rock guy. For pitch invasions or riots, all these could work for that. These are fantastic. This is some of the fluff from the new rule set. The components in the new edition, pretty similar. Like I said, I think I was counting, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is where it gets a little tricky. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's 12 on both sides. I think that's the same. I don't think they're 13 and 13. I think it's 12 and 12. And this is the Imperial Nobles with the Black Orc team. Some more fluff. Kind of a close-up of the team. Initially, there were some questions online. What were these positions? I think they thought these were referees, but these are just the new Black Orc Brawler Goblins. And in fact, if anything, if there's refs on the teams, this guy in blue arguably looks like he might be a referee. I just don't know if they're including refs now in this new edition. It looks like they might be. It used to be you would have like a model that would represent the referee that would move around the pitch. So I'll be curious if that's a thing again. Looks like I'll have to trick this a little bit to get my arrows back. There we go. So, a little bit more fluff, some more rule information. It's kind of hard to make this out. It looks similar to the existing rules for throwing a teammate, landing, etc. More spoilers. More information on the the Goblin team with the ball and chain, the Bombardier. These rules may be slightly different than they used to be, or maybe just exclusive to the Black Orc team. Not 100%, because there are other Goblin teams that have access to the ball and chain, that have access to the Bombardier. So I'm not sure if these are universal. Probably are universal, whether it's a Black Orc team or a Goblin team. This is in French, so unfortunately I can't read that. And then start of the drive. So we have the setup, the kickoff event. They have some new rules which are kind of summarized on that Reddit summary page, which we'll take a look at here later. But yeah, I want to say Riot is not Riot. Maybe that was Riot. Officious Ref. There's still Pitch Invasion, Blitz, Quick Snap. Yeah, these are going to be covered in that summary, because some of these are similar, some of these are just title changes, but the effect is basically the same. From what I was reading on the Facebook community page, there are some subtle differences with the kickoff. It sounds like all improvements for the most part. The things that were somewhat frustrating was the guys that have been buying the Spike magazines lately. Arguably, those are all invalidated now with these new rules coming out. I mean, it is what it is. We don't know for sure when this is coming out yet, so this could still be months away. But I'm assuming it's not that far off. So going over the general rules, Pro's been modified from what I recall. It works a little differently. You have to pass a roll in order to make your reroll. So there's that. This is in German, so I really can't go into some of that. Some of it is fluff, some of it's rules. More German. Then drafting a Blood Bowl team, so they give you your team roster here. Pretty standard stuff as far as that goes. If you search the interwebs, there's like an Excel spreadsheet where some of this stuff has formulas built into the spreadsheet, so when you calculate out your team totals or you go to select a certain skill or trait, it's kind of like pre-populated in the field, which is nice. I'm not sure when that will be updated to these new rule sets, but the community that plays this game is pretty fanatical, so I'm sure that'll be updated relatively soon. Passing in some ways is easier now with throwers having better throwing, an easier roll to make. But it used to be like you had your quick pass, your short pass, your long pass, and your long bomb, and there was like a plus modifier for quick, no modifier for short, from what I remember anyways, and then there was like a +1 for long pass and +2 for long bomb. They've changed that, so in that summary we'll see that on that Reddit summary, but it's the quick pass that basically has no modifier now, and then everything after that's like a +1, +2, +3, etc. Turnovers, I think, are slightly different. It's hard to see this wording, but it used to be, I want to say if you just had an incomplete pass, it was an automatic turnover, but now it seems like it's only a turnover if it's an actual fumble. So that's a little different. I could be wrong on that, but we'll find out. Standard substitutions, apothecaries. The whole casualty injury system is slightly different now. We'll go over that here in a minute when it comes up. Used to work off of a D12 system, and now it's a D16. In German, so I can't make that out. Looks like that's in French. Yeah, so here's the injury table. So it's 2d6. We still have the 2 through 7 as stun, 8 through 9 is KO, and 10 plus is casualty. Although with stunty players, it used to be like everything was just moved up a notch, if you will. So instead of being 2 through 7, it was 2 through 6. Instead of being 8 through 9, it was 7 through 8, I believe, if memory serves me correctly. And then like badly injured or casualty was 9 plus. But now we have a new category. It still is, instead of 2 through 7, it's 2 through 6. 7 through 8 on KO, but there's a badly hurt option, and then casualty is still 10 plus. So in some ways it's not as bad, I guess. Where things get really interesting or different is under the casualty rolls. So like I said, it used to be a D12, but now it's a D16. So that's a little different. I think it's a little, in some ways, maybe it's easier to be hurt, sort of, but it's more difficult to be dead, I think. Probability wise, I think so. It looks like this lasting injury table, it looks like at some point there comes a time where your character is so injured, he's either dead or he might as well just like fire him and get a new player, because these reductions add up. The halfling chef is interesting now because it looks like if you're a halfling team, he costs less. Normally he's 300k, but if you have teams with that special skill halfling thimble cup, then I believe they're 100k is how that worked out. So that's kind of cool. I'm not sure if that was always a thing, if the halfling chef was always cheaper for halfling teams, but he is now. And then mutations had a pretty significant change. You can't combine claws and mighty blow like you used to. And I want to say claws are only applicable on the block or on the offense, not on the defense. I believe in the past they could be used on the defense too. There's that summary again on Reddit. We'll get that confirmed, but so they kind of nerfed claws. I think that's fair because I thought that was kind of an exploit, and it allows you to consider other skills now. In the past, it was always like if you had a bruiser team, you were just like mighty blow claws, especially if you had access to mutations. Like, why wouldn't you do that? And it would always just, it was arguably exploitable. Being a dice game, it was still left, you know, to some randomness, but it really helped guarantee an injured player. They have a thing called Iron Hard Skin now, which is another way they're trying to kind of nerf, in a little bit more of a passive way, nerf claws. I do find it interesting that they weaken the effect of claws, and then they hit it with Iron Hard Skin as well. Like, they could have left claws as is and just introduced Iron Hard Skin, but it's like it got hit with a double whammy, if you will. You know, it is what it is. If you're playing in a league and you know you're playing against a lot of chaos players that have access to mutations, then Ironheart Skin makes sense. Otherwise, I'm not sure if I'd waste the points on it. It's a pretty niche thing to do. In fact, if they really wanted to make Ironheart Skin viable, since they nerfed claws, they should have made Ironheart Skin not only negate claws, it should negate mighty blow. Yeah. So I don't think there's anything that negates mighty blow. From a game designer perspective, I always felt like if it's an offensive ability and it's a powerful one, then the defense to those powerful offensive abilities, since it's a reactionary ability, it's not a proactive, it's a passive ability. Passive trait should have a little bit more diversity of applications, because it's pretty limited. That's just my 2 cents. So if this game is still in development, which I'm sure it's not, I'm sure this is the final production. But Ironheart skin should also work against Mighty Blow. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. More fluff. More fluff. And that's the back cover. You know, I doubt this is like the final production. I feel like this has to be a sample copy, because you got wrinkles going through the cover. This cannot be a final production. It just looks too shoddy. It looks fine for a demo, for a mock-up. But it looks like it's got some production issues if it's the final one. Maybe it got damaged in shipping. It looks like it's kind of crunched at the top too. That doesn't have any impact on the game, just an observation. All right, so that's it for the spoils so far from the Facebook community. Let's go ahead and take a look at what the official Warhammer community articles look like. There's some videos on there, and then we'll go ahead and look at that summary on Reddit. So let me bring that stuff up. Where did I have that? I had it right here. Okay, cool. Hopefully that'll come up. All right. So this was back on August 3rd. I believe we started off with this page to begin with, but we have some fluff here. For those not familiar with Jim and Bob, those have been the announcers for the Blood Bowl game for a long time. If you have the Steam version, they actually have avatars that represent those characters. There's models from different companies that represent Jim and Bob, but they're basically a vampire announcer and an ogre announcer. So they've been around forever. I actually think they might represent some of the game designers originally back in the day. I can't remember who represents who, though. It's a long time ago. This game's been around since like 86. So... and I got in like at 91, so I like to think I'm an old school player, but it was around even before I started playing. So we have the years 1986. This is actually the box that I started playing the game on. I got my version I got in 91, and there might have been like a subtle change in this edition. I want to say some people got some different components, maybe different colored components when this edition existed. The top, you can't see my cursor, I'm pointing to the top one. And then this one below it, that's a version I actually never got. I kind of got out of playing hobby games for a while, and this must have been like late 90s, early 2000s that edition was out. I remember seeing the teams. The teams looked okay for that edition, but I was really partial to the first generation metal miniatures. So I mean, this one was fine, but it just wasn't. I wasn't playing at the time, and then I got back into playing Blood Bowl on this edition here with this. I think this painted box cover is really awesome. I mean, it's kind of a surprise to me. They've kind of elevated on each edition, and then we got to this one, which is it's like they reset the clock, if you will. It's a nice illustration style. It's just it's not as refined, arguably not as refined as these painterly ones we've had since the beginning. This is just colorized line art. It's not bad. It's just a different direction, and I get it. You know, it's a change. It's a change, and sometimes you like to change things up. I think this could be painted over and look amazing too, but they chose to keep it this black and white line art that's colored. Colorized, kind of comic book-esque, kind of a watercolor, but it's the art they've been using the Spike magazines for a while, so in that respect it's consistent. The irony is the Spike magazines are not really a viable source of game content moving forward because of the rule changes. So even though the art style might be the same, it's like, well, so what? Because you're likely not going to be looking at those books for reference anymore. Now, if they reprint or reproduce those Spike magazines with the new rule sets and they keep the art similar, then they have that level of consistency and it all works out well. So, yeah. Again, we have the cover of the book. So, in fact, is that different? Let's, oh, that's probably not what I want to do. Well, I thought I'd be cool and go back to that collection quickly, but as it turns out, I have to go the long ways. Yeah, I guess it is the same. For some reason, I thought maybe that was a little different, but it looks like it's the same. Okay. Here's that video. So I'm gonna go ahead and pause my background music. Let's go ahead and play this.
Blood Bowl. It's in our blood. Just saying its name gets us all fired up. We've been playing since we were kids. Blue sky above you, roar of the crowd in your ears. Ain't nothing better. Sure, some of your opponents are big and mean and green, but that's just part of the fun. Sometimes we think the golden age is behind us. We've had the best of it all, and that just ain't so. It's time to dust off those cleats, strap on those shoulder spikes, and get ready for the next season. Your next league is right around the corner.
Lots of feathers. Lots of big feathers. I like the look of those models. I know there's a gallery here. I know there's some people not a huge fan, but I think they're arguably some of the best looking Blood Bowl team models out there, even with the goofy feathers. They have a lot of character. If you played other games like Guild Ball, for example, I feel like they've borrowed a lot of the personality from that Guild Ball game where every model's kind of unique on their team. That's really achieved, I think, with this this new team. And I think we'll see it on the Black Orc team as well. These look like they might be the same model with a slightly different head. Maybe even the same head, just the way they're painted. But they still look... yeah, they still look good. And unique. And if you didn't want these feathers on the helmets, I mean, it looks like you could probably remove them and just put a, you know, you put a spike on there. You could put like, maybe like an animal head of sort, depending on the name of your team. It could be like a hippogriffin kind of thing, a lion. Heck, you can make it a goat. Could be an eagle's head. It could be all sorts of things if you wanted to have a unique head. And maybe that's where I was trying to think about this too. Like, where does Forge World come in with these type of new teams? Like, Forge World's known for like doing unique heads, so maybe they'll have more of a knight's helmet for a head on from Forge World. That could be a thing. So thanks for joining, by the way. I just been going over the new Blood Bowl announcement, so that's kind of general theme for this evening. And but I think the sculpts on these new teams, this new Imperial Nobility team looks really cool. But I wouldn't be surprised if Forge World comes out with different heads. It looks like on the Imperial Noble team, we actually have, men and women models, which is cool. The human team, I don't think has women, but the other races like the Dark Elves, I want to say, and arguably, I think there's some elf. There's the normal elf team. I think they might, and then you could, like with the ogre team, that was like a Forge World exclusive where you could get like women ogres, which are pretty cool models. I got those from Forge World, so it gives you some options to change things up. Okay, let's get off of that. And then I wonder, this is either like the thrower, or there's a discussion out there that maybe each team has their own coach model. So this could be like the coach, not sure. But I feel like this is either a star player or a thrower. It doesn't specifically say, I don't think. The legendary Griff Oberwald to a lucrative contract, but yeah, interesting. So this was the official announcement that came out after those spoilers came out over the weekend on a Monday, and then this is what we got today from the Warhammer community, and that's the Black Orcs. So again, Bob and Jim, little fluff there. I haven't watched this video, so let's take a look at this. Nope, similar Americana, which I find funny since this is a British game.
Blood Bowl.
But
It's in our blood.
there you go.
Just saying his name gets us ready for a war. We've been crumping heads since we was the size of crots. Blood splat field, screams dying in your ears. Ain't nothing better. It's time to pull on them stomping boots, get the biggest, hardest lads, and get ready for the next season.
You can almost hear him
The
laughing in
next
his
league,
voice.
right around the corner.
We play like Lizardmen, but without the movement. They're just a straight up bashy team. Those are cool. It's funny they're less armored than the normal orc team, but at the same time they're the more bashy brawler team. They kind of feel like a savage orcs team, but almost too armored for savage orcs. Maybe not quite armored enough for normal orcs, but they do exist in this cool space of just enough armor. Some really brutal looking armor. They just want to get in there and bash. That's a crazy helmet. Yeah, these look great. Super cool. Black orcs play to win. They can get frustrated by rowdy and frivolous orcs, so would often rather form their own teams. They know they're not as fast or nimble as some other teams, but they're nothing short of peerless when it comes to bashing a hole in the line of scrimmage. For a smaller player to run through, which is why they use goblins to boost their running game. All right, and to keep a troll entertained while with something to throw. There you go. And these aren't your typical trolls and goblins either. They're highly trained. I'm imagining they're trying to say gits here. and more reliable than the ones you're used to seeing on the pitch. When it comes down to it, there are a few better motivators on the training ground than a bunch of angry black orcs ready to give you a kicking if you don't take it seriously. That's pretty good. Pretty good. And these are the new orcs. I wonder, these better goblins are just because they have a higher armor value. They do. I mean, they're kind of armored in a similar way as the new black orcs, which means they almost have less armor. But they look pretty cool. Yeah, good stuff. And then this guy. Just wait till you meet Virag Gulchur. Okay. So this is a star player. So that must have been a star player too on the human. Not necessarily a coach or a thrower, but just a straight up star player for the humans. So that's their star player, and this is their star player. I like that he has like a zombie or a ghoul on his shoulder pad. He wasn't shown up here, but he was shown in the video. They kind of did a rotation on that. Just really well done. And then snotlings. These look like they'll be hit. What? So I misspoke earlier. I thought this was like the snotlings were like the fans on the pitch that could do like a pitch invasion, riot, etc., throw a rock. But are you serious? Is this actually a potential new team? Sure is. It's a great time to be a greenskin. Not one, but two new teams are on their way to establish the range of what this versatile culture can produce in terms of Blood Bowl players. Right on. Who's the other one? Oh, we're obviously referring to snotlings. Oh my gosh. They'll be hitting the line of scrimmage. Like literally that's all they'll be doing is just hitting the line of scrimmage. Just as soon as they can figure out where the stadium is supposed to be. Yeah, yeah. Wow. All right. That's a lot of snotters. Very cool. Well, you can still use them as fans too, just for theme if you custom build your own stadium, of course. But wow, super awesome. Super awesome. All right. So we're almost done. We'll go over the observational changes. So this is kind of a work in progress. And this is where this poster, he's kind of collected his information from. So let me get some music going on. There we go. Put this back on. Cool. So yeah, the new passing ability, which I talked about earlier, the PA. So they've kind of pulled out the ability to pass the ball out from the old agility skill set. So I actually think that's cool. Not everyone agrees with that, but that's okay. I do like it. They still kept agility, but they kept it simple. Again, they're not comparing it to a chart. They just made it very much like, instead of armor value 7 and having to go look at a chart to realize you have to roll like a 8 or better, whatever. Yeah, it's just right there. It's 8+. Or like agility 3 becomes 4+. So yeah, makes way more sense. And then again, the passing, I talked about that a little bit earlier. The quick pass is now a 0, not a +1, but it's 0, -1, -2, -3. That all makes more sense. It subtracts from the value you're supposed to roll. So yeah, if you had a 2+ at a quick pass, it's still 2+. At a short pass, it's now 3+. Long pass is 4+, and a long bomb is 5+. Cool. And passing happens. Oh, this is good to know. Passing happens before the interception roll, so that used to be kind of problematic. You would go to throw a pass, and if there was an opponent in the line of the pass, they had a chance to intercept. I don't know how I feel. Maybe I guess I'm indifferent to that rule change. It definitely seems to favor the actual offensive team, or the team that's making the pass. But and 4 different pass results: accurate, inaccurate, wildly inaccurate, and fumble. I think fumble is the one where it actually causes a turnover. Passes can be intercepted or deflected, but no data on deflections yet. That's okay. So add a little bit more complexity to the rules there. But yeah, they're going over how if your team in the past used to have all the same agility skill, they all had the same passing ability or throwing ability, but now there's clearly value to having a thrower versus just a lineman, etc. Kickoff, possibly the biggest reveal here is that there's fame is gone. So that used to be a thing that would help you have a different result or a better result on the kickoff. That may have related to just like getting the reroll, but that's apparently fame's not a thing anymore, which I'm kind of cool with that. Blitz, perfect defense, now solid defense, and quick snap only works on a D3+3 unmarked player, so that's cool. Not your whole team can shift. Changing weather and brilliant coaching swapped around. Okay, makes assistant coaches a bit better. That makes sense. And then throw rock is replaced by officious ref. Chance for a player to be stunned or sent off, which I think might be better than... I want to say throw rock even had the chance not just to stun, but you could actually like kill a player, because that seemed to always happen to me whenever the throw rock result happened. One of my dudes just was like always dead. So that was frustrating. And now we have ride is now timeout, but it's mostly the same. Lose a turn unless the kicking player or the kicking team is on turn 6, 7, or 8. In totality, the changes seem to be less extreme and faster to do the bookkeeping. Yeah, I agree. So that's kind of a win. Skills, some changes and a lot of new ones. Yeah, catching bomb is now riskier. Explosion works like Mighty Bow for the +1s. Mighty always have, it may have, I don't remember. I don't think it did. Some skills have a value of +1, assuming there could be different pluses for star players or players that have, maybe you've leveled up that you can level up that skill more than once. That could be cool for sure. Pro now is a 3+. Yep, that works. But only rerolls 1 die, not all of them. Oh, okay. Specifically excludes armor, injury, and casualty dice. That's good to know. Shadowing and tentacles work on a natural 6 roll, as well as usual rules. Okay, claws don't work with Mighty Blow, which I talked about earlier, and only works on blocks you make, not defensive blocks. And this is where, because they dialed back the effectiveness of claws, and then they introduced hard skin, which even kind of nerfs claws even more. I think hard skin should also work against Mighty Blow, personally. I wonder if they tried that and it swung it too much. I wonder. So on the ball combines kickoff, return, and pass block. That's interesting. And then there's a new Fumblerooski skill where you can drop the ball for someone else to carry. That's pretty sweet. Yeah. I dig that. And then running pass looks strong for elven teams, passing and being able to move afterwards. I wonder, did they really retool passing? Because I thought you could always pass and then run. Maybe I'm misunderstanding that. Maybe running passes used to be once you pass the ball, the receiver, if they haven't taken their turn yet, the catcher could run afterwards. Maybe this refers to kind of like how blitz works for a blocking player, where when you're a blitzer and you hit a guy and if you still have movement left, you could continue moving. I have a feeling that must be what running pass is now. You can throw the ball, and if you have any movement left, you can still run. Where that would be effective for elven teams, or any team really that just has a lot of natural movement. Because then you could maybe run, throw the ball, and then continue to run and position your quarterback, your thrower in such a way where they could coordinate with another one of your teammates to get a plus to the a follow-up block roll, if you will, or just to kind of mark an opposing player. So if they want to move away, they're going to have to do a dodge, which for in regards to tactics and strategies for how you want to play your game, running pass with the team that has high mobility could be a thing. And then they looks like they removed the weeping daggers from gutter runners. That's probably okay. Safe throw now completely prevents fumbles. That's really strong. And then Cloudburster is a new skill that has the same effect as the old safe throw, but only on long and long bomb passes. So safe throw, if I recall, used to be you could re-roll the pass. Maybe that was re-roll the interception. Shoot. I'll have to look at that again, what safe throw, because I thought pass was re-rolling pass, a failed pass before. That one I'll have to go back and look at. And then improvement costs have changed. So primarily skills determined randomly at plus 10k. Huh. Has 4 costs for skills, so you can get a primary skill determined randomly at 10k, or a primary skill chosen at 20k, secondary skill determined randomly at 20k, or secondary skill chosen at 40k. I guess if you're cash trap, but that dude leveled up, that's a way to get the skill, but I'm not sure how I feel about that. That's interesting. And the cost for stats increases are armor value is plus 10, movement or passing is plus 20, agility is plus 40, and strength. Some debate this is actually just a fuzzy 5. Huh, okay. So it's either 50 or 80k. Some random skills are apparently a thing. So random skills are apparently a thing, yeah. And the cost of strength increases may have spiked. Passing seems to be a really cheap stat to upgrade, which is nice, yeah. A lot of players just like to play bashy, so they're really rewarding people to actually, I'd argue to say, play the game as intended, but, if you want to be a bashy team, be a bashy team. Casualty rolls have changed, yeah. First studies have their own injury table, which is different, and then they have that D16 casualty chart, which is also different. Interesting, yeah. Like I was saying earlier, if you were on at the start of the stream or somewhere midpoint in the stream, I talked about how, like, if injuries add up, like the niggling injuries add up, after so many, it looks like you get a 50% RIP, 50% MNG, yeah, 0% be badly hurt. So it looks like at some point they're either dead or you're just gonna want to replace them. Easier to die over time, yeah. So this was before they previewed the new Black Orc team. So there was discussion it might be a Savage Orcs, maybe, but it's a Black Orc team, which is kind of a new team. Miscellaneous crash landing segment reads you can throw prone players, which is pretty amazing. It's admittedly it's kind of a niche case scenario, but it anything that gives a little bit more value to that ability, because there's so many things that have to work to make that even like a viable strategy. So if you can pick up a dude that's face down in the dirt, that's one less thing to have to worry about if you just want to throw a dude. Rushing is the new name for GFI, which was short for going for it. Going for it's more intuitive, but I get it's with more words, so rushing, whatever. There's rules on tape back, so that's interesting. Haven't seen what those are. And then Halfling Chef, yeah, now tells you when to roll for it, which is better. That's cool. And it's cheaper, I believe, for Halflings versus other teams. Okay, Bugman might be better for stunty teams. Fair enough. There's a new jump movement option to skip over a prone or stun player. Unlike Leap, appears to not need a skill. It's just a modified agility roll. Okay. See, very long leg skill in the league. Okay. There's a stalling rule. That's interesting, which is considered running out the clock, whatever that means. Okay. The too many men rule, which is interesting. If you accidentally have 12 players on the pitch after kickoff, one is randomly sent off. I don't think I've ever seen that happen before in all the games I've played, but I guess that could be a thing. All right, so that's the summary as it stands so far. That's all of the news, if you will, that we've seen so far on the new season for Blood Bowl, or new edition, I should say, or tomato. Yeah, so I'm really excited for this new Black Orcs team. These guys just look gnarly. I mean, to be fair, I definitely like the look of the new human team too, even with the feather helmets. I have a feeling, in my mind, it makes sense if Forge World came out and they gave you like a different helmet option for these teams. I'm not sure what the helmet variation would be with the Black Orcs, but I'm sure they probably would have something. And maybe it's more for the goblins, but like I said, there's that new brawler mechanic, but I didn't see a lot of clarification on what that brawler mechanic is. It might be in this article. I didn't go through everything, but yeah, it doesn't look like they fully explain what brawler is, and I didn't see it in the changes. So that's what I got for this evening for tonight's live stream. I may be back later this evening or just tomorrow to do basically a live stream of a match on Steam. I'm going to take a break for now, and if I'm back later tonight, cool. If not, if I don't see you later tonight, thanks for joining me this evening. I hope everyone's safe and have a great rest of your night, and see you all again soon. Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.